Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Simsbury Planning Commission regular meeting. Today's date is Tuesday, October 9th, 2018. If you'd all join me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, go on to the roll call. Please indicate your presence by saying here. Holly Bem.
Here.
David Blooming. David had a planned absence here. Aaron Smith.
Yes, I'm here.
Craig McCormack. Absent. Alan Needham. He's absent. He called me just a couple hours ago. Had a family issue that he's dealing with. William Rice here. Elizabeth Burt. Absent.
She had told us she was going to be absent.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Richard Cortez.
Here.
And Gary Longarini. Absent. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 regular members here. Rich, I'll ask you to sit in for Alan.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so you'll be seated. And our bylaws do state that 4 members of the commission constitute a quorum. So we can conduct business today. Very good. Okay, old business. No public hearings, no applications.
Minutes.
Making sure you guys are on. Approval of minutes from the September 11th, 2018 regular meeting. Okay. Our secretary is not here, so someone want to volunteer to walk us through the minutes? Aaron?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. So page 1. Any changes?
I have a question for Mr. Glidden. The roll call. I think it would be appropriate if we say that Rich Cortez was seated for Holly Bem. It shows that he was here, but not promoted to a regular member. Okay? So somewhere between line 12 and 13, if we could add Richard Cortez seated for Holly Bell.
He's up here.
Yeah, but then
Say that, it just says
No, he's right. It should say that.
Oh, I see.
It is,
I got it.
she was present.
Yeah.
It's a change to line 11, appointment, Richard for
Holly.
Yep.
Sorry.
I have no further questions on page 1.
Anybody else? Page 2.
44, first word compliance, should be compliant.
Yep. Nothing else?
Line 57, at the end of the line, the word high, I believe should be highway.
Yes.
Town engineer would prefer that any changes that reflect public improvements be delayed until highway standards are updated, not high standards.
Sorry.
That's all I have.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Yeah, as amended.
As amended, thank you.
So moved.
Second. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Holly abstains. Holly abstains. Motion passes. All right, now we can get on to the meat of the program. No public hearings open under old business. No applications open under old business. So, Mr. Glidden, we have several referrals here. Not sure that they're old business.
Under referrals.
Oh, okay, under referrals. Fine. Okay, first one, CGS 8-3A, referral to the Town Zoning Commission for Zoning Commission application 18-46 of John Galvin, applicant, for a text amendment to Article 7, Section 1 of the Simsbury zoning regulations regarding vehicle repair facilities in the I-1 zone. So there's a public hearing scheduled for 11/19. So we owe the zoning commission a referral. So, Mr. Glidden, do you want to say anything about this one?
The applicant's present. If you want to have Mr. Galvin
Okay,
speak to
sorry.
it.
Yeah, if the applicant would like to come forward, or
Just
representative thereof.
One thing for the commission, I did provide you a copy of the current zoning map, just so as you're listening, Mr. Galvin, you can kind of look at where in town this
Okay.
change could affect.
Okay, just please state your name for the record and
My name is John Galvin, and I own an industrial building at 38 Wilgate Road. So part of this, I guess, is kind of self-serving too. But I'm also a commercial real estate appraiser. I do a lot of work for municipalities. And I bought the building and noticed it had a vacant for a long time. I had a tenant come to me who wants to, he was there before, he repaired diesel engines. And then when I came in to do my due diligence to make sure, we went through the process and realized that that particular use wasn't permitted in the zone, even though there were other businesses working on their own equipment, etc., and some for hire out there in the park. That they kind of, over the years, they leached in, I guess is one. So at that time, I applied for a...
For application 18-52, allowing temporary liquor permits as outlined in Special Regulations H6.
I second.
okay, so we find it consistent with the POCD.
Goals and objectives of the POC.
No, I second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the positive referral, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Very good. All right, Aaron, nice job. Holly seconded. And unanimous. Very good. Okay. Back to our agenda. We have another referral. I'll just read it and then make a comment. So we have CGS 8-3A, referral to the Zoning Commission for Zoning Commission application 18-58 of Mark Greenberg, agent, Betty Fiora, owner, for a zone change from R40 to B3 on the property located at the northerly side of Albany Turnpike on the border of Simsbury and Canton, shown on Assessor's Map 820, Block 503, Lot 002-A, Zone R40. Again, that'll be scheduled for the public hearing on November 19th. Okay, so I did receive a bit of correspondence just prior to the meeting where the applicant has asked us to defer this until our next meeting on October 23rd. The applicant really wants to be here to present the application. So I guess I'll make a motion to table this application until October 23rd.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, under new business, let me just say, for that application about the property on Route 44, please try to do a little homework for next time. It's an interesting situation.
Yeah.
Under new business, we're not in receipt of any new applications.
Okay, going back to the, so this, just to be clear, so this is, the property in question is really where Bushy Hill
No,
and,
it says over here.
right, but it's behind, if you go down West Mountain Road here, it's really way behind Hoffman.
It's right in front of Hoffman and up from it. So the question is what's up here is what we're gonna need to do homework on,
Right.
but this is the,
Oh, so it is off 44.
yes.
Oh, okay.
There's
All right.
direct
Oh,
frontage
okay.
right here, and
Yep.
it's a long piece off of that.
Gotcha.
Well, this is the part I'm voting for.
So like Best Buy is over here.
Best Buy would be
Right
right
there.
there.
Yep.
And it abuts all these other homes.
And there was a comment in the application about the POCD suggesting that some thought be given to a certain part of the land in that area.
Right, it
But
did,
that's
but
in
it's
here.
in there,
Yeah,
not
it's
up
in there,
there.
not up there.
Right, right,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, that's enough little teaser. Okay, general commission business, proposed 2019 planning commission meeting schedule. I was under the impression that we had approved
I
that
thought we
last
did.
time, but the
Yeah.
minutes don't reflect that, so it's okay. Does anyone have any questions about the meeting schedule proposed for next year? No, I didn't have any last time either, and I don't have any this time. So I'll make a motion that we adopt the proposed regular meeting dates for year 2019's Simsbury Planning Commission as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's make sure the minutes show that.
Before you hit your next item,
Yeah.
did we deal with this 18-01?
No.
Should it not be here? Okay, never mind.
Oh, it shouldn't be there. Okay.
Was that in the packet or in the?
It was in the
It was
packet,
in the packet.
apparently not.
That's the
Subdivision.
subdivision regs that the chairman needs to review first.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because
yeah.
didn't we, I thought we
Yeah.
talked
Yes.
about that
Last
last
time you granted the authority to Mike and I to work on that.
Right,
Yeah.
because we had.
Karen was supposed to, we'll talk
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah.
Mike has given me the application package.
Okay.
I'm going to review it and I'll
Yeah.
speak with him. And would we potentially set a public hearing or would we do that?
We could set a public hearing, the next meeting, I would probably say November, your second meeting in November.
Okay. Good.
So it'll give us enough time to do all the referrals, because this will have to be referred to CROG, adjoining towns, and so.
Anything else you want to share with us, Mr. Glidden?
We have a potential application coming on West Mountain Road for a conventional subdivision. So I've met with an applicant on that. I anticipate probably November you may see an application if it's.
Conventional subdivision.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a, no, you'll have two. You have two on West Mountain Road, one down towards this site where the zone change has been filed. It's for a 5-lot re-subdivision, and the other is for a 2-lot re-subdivision. So
Where's that one?
they're both on West Mountain Road.
But are they both near each other?
No,
Oh,
they're on opposite ends.
Ends of it.
One is closer towards Farms Village, the other is closer to Bushy Hill Route 44.
Conventional.
The 5-lot will be a conventional over the public road. At least that was what was shown at a preliminary plan with staff. So stay tuned for that.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any?
Use,
Yeah,
variance.
Yeah. zoning.
And it was suggested after further research by the staff that I back that off, which I did, and then apply for a text amendment. And so the text amendment that was evolved basically is for a vehicle repair facility. It originally was automotive, but I think vehicle is a more appropriate word, just to carry forward for other types of things. And excluding sales, I don't want anybody putting vehicles on my property, selling property, and that all repairs have to be done in the building. So they don't have somebody, you know, filing stuff outside the yard and pulling vehicles apart, etc. And also, I believe that I add the no outside storage. I don't have to.
Yes.
Yeah, no outside storage except registered vehicles. I put the registered vehicles and equipment in there because it's just a way for the tax assessor to actually have a little control over assessing other property other than just registered vehicles. So, contracting equipment, etc. That's about it.
Okay, do the commissioners remember the other referral that we made? That was back in June, our June 26th meeting. And there we found that the application at that time was for zoning variance or Board of Appeals.
Yeah, so the applicant was requesting a use variance. So basically the ZBA was legislating a use for this particular property, which is one of those types of applications which is supposed to be granted sparingly and that it's most unusual circumstances. So it was advised to the applicant, probably it's best interest to pursue a text amendment before going down the route of use variances.
I think text amendment, it just makes it easier for everybody, including existing buildings that are out there that have uses in it, and it gives zoning a little more control over this stuff in terms of site plan approval, because I assume this would be a special exception. I mean, right?
That's correct.
So they have a site plan approval. I don't know the actual process of planning and zoning. I do know that I did get a letter, a copy of a letter from was it James Rabbit? Yeah.
Okay.
And who talked about this being an economic incentive for the community. And benefiting the community.
Can you tell, what's on either side of your building?
My building?
Yeah.
I have, is it the saw company? Specialty Saws on the other side, who's not in an industrial zone. I think they're in a different zone, right? They're in a residential zone?
They're residential.
Yeah, residential zone. And then I have, on the other side of the set of woods is a house, and then you get down to the properties adjacent to the airport where Phelan, is it Phelan Corp? Is Phonon, thank you. And the new site that they're excavating, etc. I found pictures in the planning and zoning file years ago. It was a real, before it was built, it was a trash site. There was a lot of equipment and junk piled up on the site.
So is this the one that's right next to the bike path?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've biked by it since then.
And there's some equipment outside.
Well, since I bought it, I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff. I mean, there was just stuff that was piled up. We got rid of a lot of stuff. The original owner is still in the building as a tenant, so he still has some equipment outside that he uses, but he's been cleaning up the last case, stuff.
The last referral that we gave, we did give a positive referral, citing economic development as mentioned in the plan of conservation and development. But we did have a concern with some environmental issues that could arise with this type of activity. So we added in our referral text along the lines of as long as it protects the elements found in section 5 of the POCD, which is what we want to protect. So that was our nod to at that time the zoning board of appeals to perhaps put conditions on the application if they decided to approve it. Okay, so now I understand you've withdrawn that application. Now you're going for a text amendment. So the text amendments, once if they are approved, would apply to any other location, the way it's written here, any other location in town.
Well, within this zone, right?
Yeah, in that zone, yes. And we've seen other text amendments that have been crafted to limit it to like a particular parcel. It's not required, okay? But we're always concerned with the unintended consequences of a text amendment.
Oh, I understand that. As far as other issues, safety issues, pollution, things like that, some of that stuff, if someone was to do a repair facility there, they would obviously have to go to the DOT to get licensed too, if it was automotive. I guess the issue is if you have other people doing other repairs, but I mean, the fire marshal is the one I think who would come in the building department and make sure there's no floor drains within the building that are leaching into the thing, or soil or anything like that. And as a property owner, those are major concerns of mine too, because I don't want anybody contaminating the property, and then we have the Transfer Act in the state of Connecticut, and then I have to deal with that upon transfer, and then I would be responsible for that. But that's also the same case as if you're a warehouse user too. You had a warehouse or a manufacturer or somebody who has other solvents and stuff, which you're allowed to in this zone, and you don't have to come before planning and zoning because it's a permitted use, then you have an issue that you're at the same risk. You know, Phonon, I've been through their building, they use certain solvents and stuff like that, that the risk of contamination is probably zilch. But there are, you know, things happen, but I totally understand the commission's concern.
The tenant that is interested in this property, would it be like, you know, a truck would drive in and they work, or is it crated engines that come in?
It may be a crated engine that comes in off the site that he works on.
Other comments?
Good discussions.
Yeah, very good.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Abstentions? None. Motion carries unanimously. The meeting's adjourned at 8:31.
So who's going?
Builds, and then it gets delivered to another site, it comes in, but there are, you know, trucks that come. He does a lot of work for municipalities, because there's a real shortage on this side of the river for diesel engine mechanics to fix. It's not diesel cars, it's not diesel pickup. Matter of fact, I have a Ford 550 diesel that you won't touch, you won't fix. I can't get anybody to fix it. I have to go all the way to East Hampton to get somebody to fix it. There's nobody on this side of the river that really fixes these things. He was up in East Hampton, and then they kept on raising his rent. So he's looking to get back here because most of his clients are around here. He has done work for the town. He told me he has done work for the town of Simsbury before. But there are other contractors in the area that he fixes their equipment for too. Payloaders, backloaders, but everything's inside because he's a one-man show. You gotta remember, in his situation, I know we're talking about him as opposed to a text amendment, which everything, but in his situation, if someone's dropping off a vehicle, that's a vehicle, I'll call it a vehicle, but a piece of equipment, whatever, a truck, that's making them money. So when it's not in use, it's not making money. So he's only handling, I saw what he did, he only handles one or two at a time, and then he gets them out. If it's anything longer that's going to be major work, he doesn't do it. It has to go somewhere else for someone else to do it.
Any staff comments?
Well, it's interesting, since Mr. Galvin's filed this text amendment, we've actually had a few people looking for new locations in town to open up motor vehicle repairs. Under the current regs, they're only allowed in B2 and B zoning districts. So it's a very narrow amount of properties that qualify for automotive repairs. This would go into your industrial zones, which, you know, areas such as, we didn't talk about, as Herman Drive, which is all zoned I1. The old Wagner site, although that's a little different over there, it's zoned I1, and there's a few other locations such as in the southern part of town by Chubb Insurance that's zoned I1. It's if you look at the map, and I apologize that it's small, it's the lighter of the purples. You can see it really up on the area of Herman Drive, that northeastern section of the town. It allows for a use, a business that we're having interest of people opening up new locations in town, not just Mr. Galvin.
Mhm.
Two more points that might be, you want to hear about. In terms of benefit to the town, I appraise commercial real estate full-time, so all I do is commercial for over 25 years. A repair facility is when they're in a B zone like that. They're in there and they have to compete for space with other retail users. And other retail users and sales and service users, they often can use a rent like 12 bucks, 15 bucks a square foot. But a repair facility can't necessarily afford that space. So what they're forced to do is make money elsewhere. And that's why you see a lot of them in the business are selling cars and that kind of thing to generate the rent to go. And that's why you see a lot of them come and go, come and go, come and go. Because they just can't make enough to support the rent. And they can't make enough to justify buying a building of that cost either. So what happens is some of these, in some communities, they've migrated to these industrial areas where they can pay, in often cases they can pay, I want to use an example around here, maybe $6, $7 a square foot. And now they can afford it, they can be there, they're usually word-of-mouth businesses, they're serving just the residents. And then what happens is you have industrial rents in the area which are typically lower, typically $3 or $4 a square foot. So that property that was getting a lower rent before can now charge a higher rent. That filters down to value, obviously. Value means a higher assessment. So when the tax assessor is actually looking at the property to assess a property, when they do the reval, they actually ask for the income and expenses of each particular property. And that comes through and that does impact value. So there's another benefit to this for the community. And you remove those who are trying to locate in business zones who are going to have the 9,000 cars, and we're exaggerating, around the site. It just doesn't really fit into a land use pattern of the typical business zone in the community, particularly suburban.
Commissioners, any comments, questions?
As we discussed before, he's made a good point for economic development.
I'm fine
And
with it,
also-
as the repair work is being done inside, you don't have cars all over the place. Being that it's an industrial issue, if you want to sell cars, you need to be in a different zone, and that would be fine with me.
I was also going to point out that in these other zones where it's permitted, that might not be the kind of use we want to see anymore. And there's more commercial retail.
Right, something better suited.
So it's
yeah.
better suited anyway.
Yeah, I agree. So I'd like to make a motion that we return I guess I'll call it a positive referral, and state that the Planning Commission finds the application, get the right number.
1846.
Yeah, 18-46 for the text amendment to be consistent with the POCD as it relates to the promotion of economic development, as long as it protects the elements found in Section 5 of the POCD entitled What We Want to Protect.
I second that.
Any discussion? Is it stated clearly enough? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
That is available online.
But I like having it.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
nice to refer to this, thank you.
Yeah. Al announced that in future applications or referrals such as this, that staff provides a zoning map. So I will make sure that it's here.
We can also keep it.
If you could
But
do-
see, we should keep it in our portfolio.
Right,
so we
what
can
exactly.
refer to
Commit it to memory.
You can just-
We'll keep this one, if you can produce something that's slightly bigger for the elderly like me that can't read it, I would
I second
appreciate
that
it, but
motion.
I'll make the rich version.
there you go,
I
thank
can do
you.
a larger one.
If you can, thanks. I don't want to put you at an expense either, but bring a magnifying glass.
Right.
It's,
Okay, ready to move on? Next referral, CGS 8-38, referral to the zoning commission for zoning commission application number 18-51. Michael Glidden, CFM, CZO, Director of Planning and Community Development, applicant on behalf of the Simsbury Zoning Commission for a text amendment to Article 7, Section B7, and Article 7, Section C9 of the zoning regulations regarding accessory dwelling units. And looks like the zoning commission has set a public hearing for November 19th. Okay, Mr. Glidden, it's your application.
so the zoning commission identified a few areas in the regs that they wanted to change and update. Accessory dwelling units is one of them, as a result of several applications and a few appeals that they had to deal with over the time. What you have before you is a new regulation. One of the goals was to eliminate a lot of the discretionary regulations that are contained in existing regs. There's more measurable standards, such as limiting the size, difference between attached units and detached units, something that they've had an issue with. They had an individual propose a accessory dwelling unit in a garage they were going to demolish. The existing regs say it needs to be an existing structure, and they were saying, well, that's semantics. I'm building a new structure, so why are we going to have that conversation? So what the zoning commission has said is that we'll look at two different ones. One's attached versus detached. In the attached dwelling units, which could be converting your basement, could be doing an addition to your house.
Partitioning off something inside.
Partitioning, that's what I'm saying, doing something into your basement.
Yeah.
Those would be now subject, right now, under current regs, you would apply for a special exception for that. They are not to exceed 1,000 square feet or 2/3 of the gross floor area of the existing residence. Now, the commission is reducing it to 600 square feet or a quarter of the gross floor area of the residence. The comment was that they felt because the size was so large that you were seeing 2-bedroom units, which they felt, the intent was so that mom, dad, or some family member had the ability to age in place and still have independence, not to create independent rental units. That's what a lot of the complaints the zoning commission had on some of these applications was, you're allowing for a 2-bedroom apartment, you're creating a rental unit that is now changing the character of my neighborhood. Because they had some discretionary standards, you couldn't control that. This now requires, it's a reduction of size, so it's basically like a efficiency unit attached, which would be subject to site plan approval. That would no longer go through a public hearing process if you're doing an attached unit. There's two, you'll notice some changes in the standards. One is that these units no longer can have separate utilities. Utilities are to be shared with the house and the new apartment. So you're not going to rent out to someone if you're sharing an electric meter with them, or you have the same water connection, because the bill is going to whomever owns the primary house. The other is that the unit has to be accessible from the primary dwelling. So what's unique about the existing regs is that the regs call for a separate entrance, independent, with no connection to the house. Yet the commission was like, well, the intent was that you can you'd have the 2 units but not really know there's 2 units there. But when you're saying independent entrance and not showing any connection to the house, it's functioning as a 2-family. And that's one of the complaints we've received from people. So now there has to be a working door between the 2 units, so they're connected. Any secondary entrances to this unit need to be incorporated into the principal residence architectural style. So now you're seeing you're not from the road looking at it and going, oh, that's a 2-family there. It doesn't look different than any other house. If there happens to be another door, could be like a individual has a front door, back door, side door to their house, but you wouldn't know that it's serving an accessory dwelling unit in there. Next is off-street parking. Under the current regs, there's a call for that there's no additional curb cut with a waiver provision if the town engineer and director of public works say you can have a second curb cut. Zoning commission said no. This is, once again, the main concerns we're hearing is that this affecting the character of my neighborhood. So this is intended to be accessory to the primary residence, so therefore no more waiver provision to go to the director of public works, town engineer, and say I want a second curb cut. Next is they have to provide at least one off-street parking space on a solid surface, a proper solid surface. We had an issue in Terriffill where the individual was proposing an accessory dwelling unit. Basically, they were parking on the side of their driveway. They had one tire that was on a paved surface, the other was on the grass. Long-term, it became an erosion situation. Under current regs, we couldn't tell them you had to provide a paved surface or a gravel surface. Next is visual screening. We are requiring one, because this is different from the existing layout, we're requiring if you have an area that you're creating or that you're serving the accessory dwelling unit, meaning, so your normal house, you provide parking space for 2 cars under the regs. Now you have 3 cars in the driveway. Well, that parking area needs to be fully screened from both the abutting property and the street, so you can't see your parking areas. It just speaks to more character complaints, neighborhood character complaints that the zoning commission was having.
So explain that again, so the screening, I'm not...
They got to landscape it, put fences around it, some way that you can't see that you have a parking area next to your house.
For one car?
For the driveway period. So you have an area out that the hard surface that you're parking vehicles. The comment is, under this now, you need to screen where you have your cars parked. So then, because what we're hearing is you have a rental situation, transient housing, that you got cars coming in and out, and this is not my single family neighborhood. So therefore, if you're looking to have that additional unit in your house, you're providing screening so there's no visual impact to the added traffic that this unit may or may not generate.
Let me ask you this. So right now, I have a 2-car garage. I have space for 7 cars in my driveway. If I put an in-law apartment or whatever next on my house, there's really no more cars going to be in that parking in the driveway than there are right now. Would I, in that case, be required to provide the screening when there's no real change to what's happening in my driveway?
Yes, under the regs. That was something some members of the zoning commission particularly brought up and had concerns. This was through other applications that they dealt with, that these were complaints by neighbors and affecting.
But they don't have the screening up now, and so for one car, they're going to put up screening? I don't agree with that. It's one car. I mean, if they don't have to put up the screening now.
The other comment would be is that a garage, the parking space for the unit, be designated in the garage, and it's screened.
But what if you have 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I don't know, that just seems a little...
It sounds problematic, because once you make it so that this can't be a rental unit anymore, you're not talking about the same kind of comings and goings and all of that. I think it's just one step too far. I have no problem with the rest of this, really. But, and like she's saying, for the one car, like in my house, if we did this, there'd be no change to the number of cars in the driveway. You're imposing an unnecessary hardship on some people who may not be easily able to afford that.
For one car, and what if neighbors have like 7 cars? You know what I'm saying? Like
because right now I could park 7 cars in that driveway, nobody can say anything.
Yeah.
And I don't have a rental unit.
I understand. And this is, like I said, this language is a result of several applications. It's not just 1 or 2. This was several applications the common theme that the commission was hearing. So that's why the staff was directed to draft this language. This was a zoning commission-led language that was asked to be added to the
So
criteria.
someone is going to be upset for one additional car in the driveway.
That's what we've heard.
So then I would have to put up, if I didn't want to do that, I would have to put up a garage for them.
A bay in the garage.
So I would have to add a bay onto my house.
Yep.
Or trees, or screening. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, that's the only problematic piece for me.
Me too. I think for one car, that's overkill for the potential of one extra vehicle. And you said it can only be an efficiency as well?
Well,
Or
600 square
I called it
feet.
an efficiency unit based on the size. I was trying to give you like a visual, 600 square feet.
No, I
It doesn't have
know.
to be a quote-unquote efficiency unit, but
Okay,
usually
so-
600 square feet is what you commonly refer to as efficiency units or studio apartments. The other thing, as part of the review process, is that it was a suggested discretionary language in the existing regs about referring the recommendations, the most current, well, actually it was referred to the 2007 Plan of Conservation and Development. The commission wanted that to be updated, just say the most current. So in 2027 or 2017, that we're not have to keep updating the regs. But they would also like that the applicants, this is something they've strayed for. So what chapters in the POCD ties down to the need for the housing, not just your particular use, but identify that and demonstrate that this is actually providing additional. So that was attached. Detached would be subject to a special exception. And permitted in a detached accessory structure, they were no longer requiring this existing detached accessory structure. It could be a proposed, provided that they demonstrated compliance through all these sections outlined that I just went over in, would be Article 7B, 7C, C1A through J. So that's the rough proposal.
So do we have, sorry, Bill, do we have any recourse about that screening?
Sure, we can make a recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Well, how do you guys feel about it?
Well, on J, I had misinterpreted as a visual screening for any additional parking that needed to be added. So, I mean, I could see that if you currently had 4 or 5 cars in your parking area, and now you're going to have an additional one at all times, it might start to look a little cluttered. Or I could see that being for additional spaces, saying, well, to preserve the character of the one family home. In our own parking area, my husband has a tendency to park his truck very visibly outside of our garage because we fill up the bay it's intended for. And I always think, maybe it'd be nice for the neighbors if you pulled around where it wasn't so visible. But I could see if we now had one of our parents living there and a car, that would, I mean, it seems additional, for that additional place doesn't seem as onerous as saying, well, we've always had 4 cars parked there, and now we still have 4 cars, but now we have to screen the area in addition to all the expense of trying to provide a living space for mom. That is a bit onerous.
Yeah.
It seems.
And how would you screen for just one extra car? I mean, basically.
No, you have to screen out the whole thing.
Wait,
No,
full visual screening cannot be done with some shrubbery and
Yeah.
well
It could.
Yeah, it can be.
It could be. You could put some,
It doesn't have to
evergreens.
be.
I still
But
don't.
what's it being screened from? What angle? Not from the road.
Public right-of-way and adjacent properties.
So it has to be screened from the road too?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
So it's-
onerous.
And that was, like I said, that was the result of concerns they had on other applications. So that this This has been an issue that the zoning commission's been grappling with for 3 years. So we have been meeting we started as a subcommittee, and then they spent the month of August. They actually met twice in August to discuss this and some other matters. This was a priority that the chairman wanted the commission to tackle. And so this has been...
Well, I won't vote in favor of this at all if that has any way of getting in there. I think it's onerous for the people of this town. I think...
I would support if they made a one-car exception or something like that. Something that's reasonable for most people. Neighbors aren't going to scream that there's an additional car in the driveway next door. It's not going to be a rental. It's not going to be a commercial use thing. It's, like you said, it's going to be for an in-law, for elderly people. They don't usually have a car for all that long. At a certain point, they need to give it up. So if they would make the exception for one additional car being there for that unit, and then anything more than that, you would begin requiring the screening and all of that, I could support it. But just for one car to screen off your entire parking area, that's just too much.
Just as a reminder, the commission, you're looking at how is this consistent with the plan of conservation and development. A lot of your comments
Touche.
may not meld with the POCD. You could make that comment that you feel it's onerous, but it would be independent of your findings unless you can tie it to some section of the plan of conservation and development, which I think Holly's.
That being said, if you guys have it, page 56, section 8.2, A1, ensure the scale and form of new development is compatible with the surrounding areas and the architecture of new development complements or enhances the existing developed environment. Well, the environment could be the home, it could be the property.
I'm not sure an auxiliary dwelling unit would be considered a development.
It isn't? You don't have to pull a permit? Isn't it development?
What chapter of the regs? What's
It's
the section?
8.2A1.
No, what section are you in?
8.2.
Promote places with a
Sense of place.
Sense of place. It could stretch the residential, that chapter. I think it's focused on.
Well, it's sure, enhance the form of its surrounding area, as well as uses appropriate. I think that was always all the development.
Well, let's keep in mind that our POCD certainly says that we should make opportunities for affordable housing. Also, be cognizant of our aging population and promote opportunities for them to age in place.
You had some sections we can review?
Sure.
I just
Section
wouldn't have
10.
an extra 40 grand.
So page 86, for instance.
Okay.
86.
Well, we're talking about multifamily housing options in appropriate places. It's not this.
Well,
Well, if you do 10.2 on 90, page 9, seek to provide for housing choices for seniors who wish to live in Simsbury, including those of limited means. That would seek to support seniors who wish to age in place, so that 10.2A, 1 and 2. Provide for appropriately scaled accessory apartments within or attached to a single-family dwelling so long as one living unit remains owner occupied. That's promote smaller housing, which could be quote-unquote starter housing. Oh, that's first time. So 10.2A, 1, 2, and 3 would go with, I think, what we're talking about.
Well,
And minimize negative impacts on residential areas. It does say vegetative buffering.
I'm sorry, where did you see the buffering?
10.2B,
10.1.
10.1, I mean,
What's the page?
90, page 90.
Yeah.
It says minimize negative impact. So I think, to what Rich said, maybe an exception would be one extra car. After that, then you would have to use a buffer so that there weren't more than one vehicle. But I think that's a hardship. I think it goes against this would be a hardship for people. This would be a hardship for seniors. This is one way to afford seniors, and people to age in place. And I think having to have that extra step is onerous. I don't think it's necessary. So I like Rich's suggestion of having a one-car exception, and then after that, having to have a buffer, but I wouldn't.
And I think that would likely cover the other commissioners on the other.
Seek to promote housing choices for persons with limited needs.
The only question I have, guys, is how do you determine capacity? That is, different people who live in the same house, who own the house over successive periods of time, will have different patterns of car ownership. Some people will have 6 cars, or some will have 3. And when we talk about that one, we're just talking about one in addition to what they currently use.
Well, I
what
think
if
one for
kids
the
going
new
to college or comes
one
back?
for the new dwelling. So if they
Okay.
were, yeah, right, that's what
Okay,
you're saying.
for
Yeah.
the occupant of the new dwelling. I think that makes sense.
I mean, that's,
I'd go with
you
that.
bring up
I'm
a
good
good
with
point, Holly. We have an extra vehicle in our driveway, which wasn't there 6 months ago. No, so we didn't have cars in our driveway. We do now because we have another driver.
that. That's
I don't
we
see
got
how
that
that's
truck.
any, it's not any different. And so putting this in there, I feel is,
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And Rich is, I think, is a good
I
compromise.
just don't get it.
So
Do you think
Rich,
they
you want
would
to
bite on that
propose?
at all? I mean, or is it just are they?
They were very, that was a very
Understand.
strong
We can make a
opinion from
comment.
individuals.
They don't have to heat it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were very,
So we just understand.
Well, that's what
At
I'm
least we-
nervous about,
They've
Bill, because
received
they're
a
gonna
lot
put
of-
this in and it's a bad
They're just,
decision.
well,
in
you
my
have to go to
opinion.
the hearing and voice your opinion.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Remember,
they are the legislative body for that set of regulations, it's not us. But I want to take a step back. First, the attached accessory dwelling units will be moved into the permitted use section.
correct.
As long as they meet the criteria.
Permitted as of right.
Right. So.
So site plan approval, no public hearing,
Mhm.
but it's a reduced size compared to what's allowed right now by a special exception.
Now, okay, so that, what's being proposed is adding a permitted use to section B,
Correct.
okay? An additional permitted use,
Mhm.
number 7.
Mhm.
If we look at the existing zoning regulations, under, I guess that's permitted uses C, permitted, uses permitted as a special exception, there's the body of both attached and detached is in that section.
Correct.
So is what is proposed for section C9 going to replace what's in the current regulation under item 9?
Or detached, yes.
Okay,
So
so taking the parts relevant to attached, maybe changing them, bringing it into permitted use.
correct.
Rewriting section 9 to reflect the detached.
Because they felt that the detached gave the perception of 2 houses on one lot, which the neighbors should have the ability to speak at a public hearing in those cases, especially in smaller lot situations. They initially proposed that they were going to require minimum lot size of 1 acre for a detached unit. And then the comment was, well, what about the area behind Town Hall? Older section of town, could qualify, you could have homes that could support 2 units that have very large garages in the backyard. You're basically saying that individuals who live in that section of town will not have that ability, and so that's why the comment was, well, we'll remove the lot size criteria and keep it as a special permit for the fact that we go through a public hearing process for those situations, because those are ones that could result in a potential for neighborhood character changes. And I should just backtrack. This was a result of the commission and staff we queried all the surrounding towns and beyond in Connecticut and seeing how they are regulating accessory dwelling units. So I mean, this wasn't just commission staff, let's pick how we want to do this. We looked at how our peers are doing this before this approach was chosen.
No, I think overall this is a very good approach. I only have one issue with it. I actually like it. It's very clear on what you can do, what you can't do, and how it needs to be done.
You want to craft a motion for positive referral condition?
I would, if you want to do that, let's do it two things. Make the referral, but then we can add, a special note.
Or comment.
Or a comment. Just before we get to that point, do I understand it correctly that there's no longer any requirement for reapplication upon sale of the property?
We've been handling as conditions of approval for ones that have been approved lately. So the comment was be a common practice we don't need in our regs, because it's more of an administrative process. What that is so under current regs, if someone were to sell a house and they have an accessory dwelling unit in there, they are required within 30 days to notify the zoning office with a new owner-occupied affidavit, basically saying, I still want to keep accessory dwelling unit here. I realize I have to live either in the apartment or in the house. I plan on living in one of the two.
Where does it say that?
In the existing regs,
Yeah.
It's part of.
I see it in the existing regs.
It's not in the proposal. They did not want to include that as a regulation. They felt that because they've been handling that as conditions of approval lately, that they would just continue as conditions of approval. They didn't feel it has been an issue. We really have not had an issue with, because all of these actions will be filed on land records. So when someone goes to sell a house, their real estate agent, one of the two offices they go to is the town clerk's, and this is popping up immediately. And the few times that we've had a few that have transferred to other people, they've come down to our office, filed the affidavits. We didn't need a regulation. I mean, it's just standard practice. They have been doing this. So because of that, we've been conditioning recent approvals. We've had one on Winthrop Street, another one on West Mountain Road, putting that language directly right into their approval, no issues. So the commission does not feel they needed a regulatory section dealing with that.
Just wondering if someone buying the house would be aware of it. Yeah, sure, they probably know that there's a in-law apartment. They might not refer to it as an accessory dwelling unit, but how would they know that they'd have to file an affidavit?
One, like I said, the actual letters of approval are filed on the land records. So it would trigger, once they do a title search, this approval letter pops up. So then if they read it, they would see, oh wow, I have to notify the zoning office the new affidavit that it will be owner occupied. So, and it has worked. We haven't had issues with that.
So it becomes a procedure.
We're having more of issues on the permitting side. We're going through the approval process with the applications of the commission than we are having on the enforcement side, because it becomes more of an enforcement matter.
So, moving it into the permitted uses section pretty much absolves the zoning commission of making a decision whether they want to approve it or not, assuming the applicant meets the criteria, right? So it sounds like they want to eliminate some of the subjectivity that may be going on with some of these applications.
It'd be comparable to like what this commission would experience if you had a subdivision. You have a subdivision, that someone applies for a subdivision, They demonstrate compliance to the standards, you're obligated to approve it, because it's an administrative review. So it's exactly how these would be handled for attached units. They demonstrate compliance, it's an as-of-right use, therefore, site plan would be approved.
Right, so theoretically, it should improve the consistency of the disposition of the applications, as opposed to someone, today I don't feel like approving it, and I don't have to because there's a special permitted use.
Subject to.
Yeah, that's really what was one of the main concerns that some commissioners had. It's eliminating the subjectivity or discretionary regs that they had for determining whether to approve or disapprove a application of accessory dwelling unit under current regs.
Well,
And unfortunately, they were faced with 2 court cases, of which the last one, the judge kind of said,
figure it out.
you can't do this. You can't say no. They demonstrated compliance. You can't hang your hat on discretionary standards. So that's what also triggered this work.
So does making this statement in the referral accomplish?
That's what I'm thinking.
It's all we can do.
Well, we don't have to give a positive referral.
I think my feeling is we'd be hard pressed to find how it's not consistent with the POCD. We say it right in there,
No, what I said was that, what is it, J or whatever, it isn't. What they're proposing.
No, we can handle that as a comment,
Yeah,
just say,
I don't
hey.
know if it's strong enough. I don't know if they'll take it as seriously. We're saying we're giving them a positive referral, they're probably gonna look at the comments and.
Okay, is there something in the POCD that's is not consistent with J?
Right, I think she pointed.
I think
Yes,
they're putting up,
what I
I think
said.
they're putting up,
She pointed out.
what it ends up being is a monetary barrier to being able to do your project. So you gotta do an addition. On top of that, you're gonna end up spending, I don't know, I'm guessing.
I have, to be honest with you, I have no idea what this means.
What?
Full visual screening. Good, you put like a...
You said you can't see it from the road, you
put
can't
up
see it from anywhere.
A camo building and
It
park the car in there?
It can be privet hedge.
You could put a hedgerow, vegetated hedgerow up. You put fencing. You could add an addition and put a garage.
Is there a specific instance that triggered this?
I know, there had to.
There's several.
Is it like someone parking their car right next to somebody's property line?
Yeah.
Well, that's-
So why don't we say, they say you can't put it next to the property?
Right, I know.
I mean, we do have rules about what you can do within 25 feet of the property line and all of that.
And it's a car.
For
I mean-
only for construction of either additions or storing of recreational vehicles. That's the only 2. Otherwise, location of parking areas at a residential setting, there is no setback. So, and the only thing that we were concerned with is that you could run into some issues from a fair housing perspective. If you were to say, okay, this one you have to meet the setbacks for the zoning district in order to add onto your driveway. Now, that's really putting an undue hardship on someone. So this was just saying, still as is, it's just can't see it. Because if you think of it, everyone's allowed a single-family home in a single-family residential zoning district as of right, period. Don't go to the zoning commission, build your house, add your addition, just meet the setbacks of the zoning district. Now you're going a step above. So it's a next tier up. It's something, I don't want to say exception to the rules, but it's different. So therefore, there's a higher degree of, well, the intent of zoning is, protecting from a police matter of life and safety, but also you have character and sense of place. So therefore, you're putting in some safeguards, but not leaving them as discretionary. Because that's really what it boils down to right now. They have an open standard that says that you will not impact the overall character of the surrounding neighborhood. Define what that means.
Right,
Right,
but
so-
one car.
Where is it measurable?
Right, so, but if I'm...
And unfortunately, that they have heard that concern reasonable minds may say one car is not impacting your neighborhood.
Right.
That's what they've heard. And this is not just 1, 2, 3 applications. This has been over the course of 3 years. they've heard it on every application of accessory dwelling unit that goes before them. That concern comes up one way or another. And as a result of...
So they're worried that this is going to impact. I just think that this is the way it's worded, that you'd be walling off your whole property for one potential
Well, that's what I was just gonna ask.
I think it doesn't make sense.
You have to screen it from the road? So I would have to screen the entire front of my property
Yes.
because they put one more car in the drive. Doesn't that just sound like one step too far?
Yes.
And again, I'm trying not to fight this, but it's sort of ridiculous that I would have to put up an 8-foot privet hedge across the front of my property and across the sides of my property, which would make it much easier to rob and much more dangerous at night with what's going on in town right now. It doesn't make sense. Now, I understand what their issues are with it. I could right now cut down all the trees and park a car right there just because I can.
Right.
This won't solve that.
What about making the additional car less visible?
No,
Because-
I think for one car, like, how many, I'm sure you had when your boy started driving, right? You had an extra car in the driveway. No one said anything. So how is this any different? An aging parent comes in and somebody's worried about one car and you're gonna have to wall off your
I'm trying
property
to imagine
for one
the
car.
issues that Mike has been alluding to, where in some properties, there just isn't that much clearance with the property.
So maybe-
But what if there are children
Maybe
in
we
that
can
house?
No,
Turn
there
tied
was-
to the property line clearance issues.
No, I mean, it was discretionary how it popped up in some of those cases, and it's different on each one. It's not I can't point to a common theme that, it was a small lot and they were on top of their neighbors, like 7,000 square foot lots. Now, these were, we've had this concern from applications in Terriffill, where you had that 7,000 square foot lot, to an application off of West Mountain Road that was on 2 or 3 acres. And we still heard from neighbors saying that this one extra car is going to deter the character of my neighborhood. So
I agree with you guys. I don't think this was well thought out.
I don't think so.
I understand what they're trying to do. I wish we could say, well, we give a positive referral for everything but that. But you can't do that, right? You can't do that.
Well, we
I don't think
This
this
is
helps
gonna be
people's
horribly
age in place.
I don't either.
I don't think so at all.
I think there's so much more variation that we're not addressing.
It doesn't promote housing choices for persons of limited economic means. That's page 92.
So a referral is all or nothing.
Yeah, and there's also advisories. The only thing it triggers if you send a negative is a super majority requirement for voting on this for the zoning commission. Meaning you need 4 out of 6 votes in order to pass it.
See, they're gonna vote on that as is. It's gonna get in, I'm telling you. I don't.
Well, but we have to do our job.
Our rights as citizens is to go and be at that meeting and state what you want to state. If you have reasons coming out of this document that you can say, that you can vote no on, realistically, then you vote the way you feel.
You have 3 options. You could send a positive referral with comments. You can send a negative referral. You can take no action or no position. The problem with taking no action or no position is technically under statute, that's a tacit approval to the zoning commission. But I mean, it is an option under the statute you can take.
So what do you want to do?
I say no. I feel
We're not
strongly.
voting, but
Or I say no to, I think I won't, I don't feel comfortable giving a positive referral. Because I think if we do, regardless of comments, we're giving approval. And I feel strongly with page 90, options for seniors, options for people with economic, limited economic means. If you look at page 92, allowing people to age in place. And I'm sorry, one car, I don't really think is going to really negatively impact someone's neighborhood. I mean, I guess it could on small properties, I shouldn't say that across the board. You know, but I'm generalizing, you know, I don't, so.
Right, so let's kind of,
Can I ask a dumb question one more time? So just, I know I've asked this before. So we can't say yes because there's a lot in here and we'd like to approve it. It was just that one section, J. We can't say a positive a referral is for all but section J, which we believe needs to be rethought.
You could make a positive referral and are concerned that the potential impacts that subsection J has on financial viability for the construction of accessory dwelling units. And I think that would get your opinion across to the zoning commission.
yeah,
It promotes housing options, however,
Mhm.
we're just concerned that this may have financial impacts.
Well, maybe stronger wording, very strongly.
Yeah.
okay. Someone want to try to craft that?
Go ahead, Rich.
That is not my strong suit. It's not my strong suit.
Will help.
Well,
So,
we can insert a comment in a negative referral as well. Can we not?
You could make a negative referral and say that you don't support it with section J.
I'm torn between the two. I really am. Because I think overall, and I hope you communicate this to them, I think it's a really good document, generally speaking. It's only that one thing, and somebody just needs to think about it over there before they put this in cement.
Could I ask, just out of curiosity, as the staff of the commission, what happens if it only applied for detached units? Would you have the same heartburn you have if it only applied to?
I do. I
You
do,
do?
Yeah, I
because
agree.
my house, if I'm thinking about my house and I'm thinking about pretty soon, we're gonna need to be moving to something else. And I'm thinking, at my house, I can't put an addition on the side where the garage is.
Mhm.
Can't do a darn thing over there. I need to put it on the other side. And on the other side, I may or may not be able to get a curb cut. It depends what I have to do. I'm gonna have to put a driveway through the front of my house to get out to the other
That's
driveway.
that's if you choose the screening method to be a garage.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
that was solve the
There's-
problem.
What sort of problem?
Yeah.
No, just curiosity. Just think of it, maybe separate the two.
I don't know enough about what's driving it.
Yeah.
It looks a little
Discretionary.
austere.
It's just, and I think it's
It's
discretionary.
almost like the nuclear option.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
it's like
where
saying you can
now-
have this candy, but just cut off your arm first and then I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no,
That's
Yeah.
not what we
to
should
me,
be doing.
I'll give
In their defense, they've had a lot of, over the, like I said, the past 3 years, some very heated applications that have gone before them. They were overturned twice
Mhm.
by the courts. With the last one, it was some very strong language from one of the land use judges, kind of warning them, they don't want to see you again. So this was coming, and so yeah, I agree. You may feel it's a nuclear option that's out there. It may be a result of a lot of frustration and anger that's been directed at that commission by the public.
I think they'll get a lot more anger about
Yes.
this, you know? We talk about our dwellings, our house has a perfect layout to add a parking spot that no one else would ever see, that's totally hidden, but then our existing cars would still be visible from the road, and to screen all those off with the lay of the land would be seriously onerous when the additional car would be screened. So I think it's not sufficiently well thought out as to all of the applications.
Aaron, you want to try?
Oh, my goodness.
No?
Well,
I'll do it.
well, are we gonna do, are we recommending a positive? With
My
the caveat,
my
or-
motion would be to return a referral that, not a motion yet.
Yeah.
Hands up.
Just talking.
That would say that, for the most part, the application for the change the text amendment is consistent with the 2017 Plan of Conservation and Development, citing section 10.2A, 1 and 2. But we would also make the comment that item J
Contradicts that.
runs the possibility of incurring undue financial requirements, which is contrary to the POCD.
Well, it's contrary to 10.2A123. So where you're saying it is, that points to
It is
not
and it
having.
isn't.
Right,
I
right,
think it
no, that's
applies to both.
exactly. So I think that's what that by putting this forth, yes, it does go by that, but with J in there, J is counter, it's counter to that. So you've got to document with elements that butt against each other. I don't know how you'd say that. It's not a very professional way to.
Well, if we give a positive
can we say that?
referral, you know, if we give a negative referral, all it means is they need to talk and make sure they really want to do this, given our objection.
They are the applicant. Maybe my name, they are the applicant.
But Bill, to your, I think, I like what you started with. So you're saying
So we
it
can
is
just
in
roll
line
it
with
through
the
it.
POCD, right? 10.2A123. However, J is in a complete
Deviation.
Violation.
or violation
No,
of
not
that,
violation.
but you know what I mean,
Deviation, yeah.
deviation
But, okay, but,
from
you know,
10.2A1.
The
I
only-
mean, can you say?
The only thing I'll say there is, we all have
Or-
some conception of what screening is, okay? I don't know what the zoning commission had in mind. I don't know what applicants would propose. So in that case, it's too nebulous for me. I certainly wouldn't want to send back a referral that says it's inconsistent totally with the POCD, because it's not.
No, I agree.
It hits the nail on the head, except for J.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so
So
I
let's
think
say
that
that.
you, but
can
that's
say
what you
negative
were
or
saying.
positive.
You were saying 10.2A123, this is consistent. What I'm saying is J isn't.
Mhm.
It's not consistent with what you were saying it was. So this document is consistent, but it's contradictory because J isn't consistent with the rest of the document, which is consistent with 10.2A123. I don't know how you state that in a way that makes sense.
Well, you know, if I were the applicant, or if I were promoting the line J, I would go to the POCD and say we're maintaining the character, you know, we're not disrupting the neighbors, you know, they're not going to know that anything has changed.
Right.
That's what everybody wants.
We can approve something that the regular guy can't afford to do. That would be great.
And it could make the place look
And
lovely.
that's my problem is, if you have enough money, you can do what you want with your property, but if you're not, well,
Or-
you know what, don't apply for it
or-
because you're not going to be able to do it.
Maybe,
And it says affordable.
maybe that's what the zoning commission wants.
I'm not arguing that.
Generally,
I do have a
if we
suggestion.
pass a negative referral, at least they have to discuss and decide one more time, do they really care about affordability or not?
They can choose to ignore it.
They can choose to ignore it, but you have to do that in front of God and our television crew.
Do you think they would be at all amenable if Jay said full visual screenings to be provided for areas of additional off-street parking?
You could put that as a
Mike?
comment. I think that would be if you were to say a positive referral and then we recommend that section J read as the following.
Yeah, so if you're
Provide,
adding,
we find the text amendment consistent with the 2017 Plan of Conservation Development site, what we said 10.2A1,
1, 2, 3.
with the change to subsection J to read as the following.
okay.
I think that
That might make.
you may get your message across that way versus if you send a negative, you run the risk that they'll just say,
Yeah, exactly.
put a lot of work in it.
Yeah, I get it. So if you're adding a new spot for a car to sit in that didn't exist before, bam, it hits. If you're adding whether it's attached or detached, if you have a garage unit for it, you're good to go, right? So I think that really, that probably covers it. Because now, what happens in my driveway is happening in my driveway. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But if I'm paving another spot to the left of everything that's already there, now I gotta start shading everything from the neighbors. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so
I could
additional
live with that.
areas of off-street parking.
Okay.
Areas of
Would need
additional
to be
on-street
screened.
parking.
So if
Here.
they can park in the driveway, okay.
All right, so I'll make a
I could
motion
think that would.
to return a referral that says that application 8-51 related to auxiliary dwelling units is consistent with the 2017 Simsbury POCD, specifically section 10.2, items A, 1, 2, and 3, with the following revision to subsection J.
7CJ. 7C1J.
C1J, yeah, 7C1J. It shall read, full visual screening is to be provided for
Areas of,
for new areas of off-street, or additional,
areas of additional
for
off-street.
additional areas of off-street parking. So we're adding the word additional, Mr. Glidden. Yeah. So that's the motion.
Additionally,
I second that.
Okay, seconded by
Good job.
Holly. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Michael, you'll let
The
them know the
motion
discussion.
carries unanimously.
We're required under law to send a report, so when, I don't think I ever really explain how this works now. Once your referrals go out, I usually write the report up as a memorandum to the zoning commission and attach the meeting minutes to that memorandum. So they get the full picture. They don't just get like a one line from you.
Okay,
So,
good.
and if you want, I mean, I could share that with the commission for the next meeting, just so you see what's going on. But
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Item C. CGS 8-3A, referral to the zoning commission for zoning commission application 18-52 of Robin Newton, code compliance officer, applicant, on behalf of the Simsbury Zoning Commission for a text amendment to Article 10, Section H6 of the Simsbury zoning regulations regarding temporary liquor permits. Again, public hearing scheduled for 11/19.
Oh, they're gonna be busy that day, huh?
Okay, Mr. Glidden, I see Robin's not here. Do you want to describe what's going on here?
yeah, so one of the things that the zoning commission, as I said earlier, they had a subcommittee. This was an item that they heard a lot of rumblings from applicants. Right now, all liquor licenses require a special exception. So they have to go through a public hearing process, they pay $290. It's a longer process. What the issue is that some of these temporary events are run by not-for-profits. So one, the fee that's associated with the special exception is a lot of money for them. Two is just the public hearing process. It delays their process sometimes because of the nature of these. They're volunteer organizations, and someone doesn't hand off the information to the new person who takes over their position when they leave the organization, and they run into timing for events. We've had a few who had to change the dates of their events that they require a temporary liquor license. So what this is going to change now is that temporary liquor permits will be subject to a site plan approval by the zoning commission. No public hearing, so it could be done in one meeting for someone versus going through the notifications and public hearing process, provided that they have no more than 15 events per calendar year. If they want to have more than 15, they have to go to a public hearing, because now we get discussion of, so what's this site actually doing there? Are you an event center, or is it somewhere that's appropriate to have an event center? The other is that After the zoning commission approves the site plan for a temporary liquor permit, now that that organization comes back the next year and they say, here, I want to apply for my liquor permit for this year's series of events, they can go straight to the zoning officer and do not have to go to the commission anymore, just get a zoning permit. It's a reduction of fees. It's zoning. The zoning commission would be $180 to the zoning officers, $25 for a permit, which would be done out the door, you know, over the counter, no meetings required. The zoning officer would have the ability, though, to refer a request from an applicant back to the zoning commission for site plan approval if she had like enforcement issues, which we've had a few people who've had temporary licenses that have had enforcement issues over the years that the zoning commission brought up in their review of permits. So this was really to promote, like I said, these events that, you know, to expedite the process for people.
Mike, how did they come up with the number 15? That doesn't sound like a nonprofit anymore.
It was just, the number started with 10, and we looked at, we have a few not-for-profits that have events in town that have 12. So the commission felt as long as you kept it under 15, it was appropriate. So it was just a number they picked as the max for the ceiling.
I'm just thinking about the effect of the neighborhood. It's almost every other week.
Right, and we have some organizations.
No, 30%. It's at 1 in 3.
We have some organizations that are holding that level of frequency of events.
PAC.
They have a theater license. They're not part of this.
Okay.
They were in the past when they applied for temporary liquor licenses and have to provide every concert or event on a list. Now they applied for a theater license, so therefore they do not reapply each year to the zoning commission for temporary liquor licenses. They have a full liquor license.
What kind of organization would have 12 a year?
Gifts for Love at the community farm. They have farm-to-table events and other fundraisers.
Really?
So,
And they sell,
what also is that, so they hold these farm-to-table events and do not have a caterer that has a liquor license. That's what triggers the temporary license. The wrinkle to this, if you have a caterer that has a liquor license
You're good.
and it's mobile,
Yep.
you never go before that zoning commission to begin with. You can have several events. The only issue would be is if it's on public property, you're subject to a public gathering permit process. If it's on private property, it's none of your business. You can have, you know, it'd be like having a wedding in your backyard that is catered by someone who has a liquor license, which is totally legal.
so this is going to be an additional permitted use?
It's going to be a subsection within the sale of alcoholic beverages in the existing regulations, which is Article 10, Section H6. We already allow liquor licenses, just like I said, they're all subject to public hearings.
When would item 6 be triggered? You know, does an applicant have to satisfy 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
No, item 6 would come in, let's say they specifically are applying for a temporary liquor license with consumer protection and not a full liquor license. They would be subject to this standard.
Temporary.
It's just a type of liquor licenses that is with the consumer protection. Right
Oh,
now,
I see, okay.
our current regs, we don't call out, we don't have a difference between permanent and temporary.
I
They're
see.
just liquor license.
Yep, okay.
So,
Does it bring people to town?
yes, it does.
Consistent with the POCD as far as I'm
There
concerned.
you go.
I agree.
Okay, so someone please make a motion.
I propose that we give a positive referral for application 18-52, allowing temporary liquor permits as outlined in Special Regulations H6.
I second it.
Okay, So we find it consistent with the POCD.
POCD.
Goals and objectives of the POCD.
No, I second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the positive referral, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried, passes unanimously. Very good. All right, Aaron, nice job. Holly seconded it. And unanimous. Very good. Okay. Back to our agenda. We have another referral. I'll just read it and then make a comment. So we have CGS 8-3A, referral to the Zoning Commission for Zoning Commission application 18-58 of Mark Greenberg, agent, Betty Fiora, owner, for a zone change from R40 to B3 on the property located at the northerly side of Albany Turnpike on the border of Simsbury and Kent, shown on Assessor's Map 820, Block 503, Lot 002-A, Zone R40. Again, that'll be scheduled for the public hearing on November 19th. Okay, so I did receive a bit of correspondence just prior to the meeting where the applicant has asked us to defer this until our next meeting on October 23rd. The applicant really wants to be here to present the application. So I guess I'll make a motion to table this application until October 23rd.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, under new business, let me just say, for that application about that property on Route 44, please try to do a little homework for next time. It's an interesting situation.
Yeah.
Under new business, we're not in receipt of any new applications.
Going back to the, so this, just to be clear, so this is, the property in question is really where Bushy Hill and...
No, it says right here.
Right, but it's behind, if you go down West Mountain Road here, it's really way behind Hoffman.
It's right in front of Hoffman and up from it. So the question is, what's up here is what we're gonna need to do homework on,
Right.
but this is the,
Oh,
yeah,
so it is off 44?
yes.
Okay.
There's
All right.
direct
Oh,
frontage
okay,
right here, and
Yep.
it's a long piece off of that.
Gotcha.
Oh, this is the part on 44.
So like
Yeah.
Best Buy is over here.
Best Buy would be
Right
right
there.
there.
Yep.
And it abuts all these other homes.
Right.
Okay.
And there was a comment in the application about the POCD suggesting that some thought be given to a certain part of the land in that area.
Right, it did,
But that's
but
in
it's
here.
in there,
Yeah,
not
that's
up
in there,
there.
not up there.
Right, right,
Okay.
yep.
All right, that's enough, little teaser. Okay, General Commission business, proposed 2019 Planning Commission meeting schedule. I was under the impression that we had approved that
I thought we
last
had.
time, but the
Yeah.
minutes don't reflect that, so that's okay. Does anyone have any questions about the meeting schedule proposed for next year? No, I didn't have any last time either, and I don't have any this time. So I'll make a motion that we adopt the proposed regular meeting dates for the year 2019 Simsbury Planning Commission as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's make sure the minutes show that.
Before you hit your next item,
Yep.
did we deal with this 18-01?
No.
Should it not be here? Okay, never mind.
Oh, it shouldn't be there. Okay.
Was that in the packet or in the?
It was in the packet, but apparently not.
That's the
Subdivision.
subdivision regs that the chairman needs to review first.
Oh, yeah.
Because didn't we, I thought we talked
Yes.
about that
Last
last.
time you granted the authority to Mike and I to work on that.
Right, because we had
Chairman
talked,
was
okay.
just to, we'll talk. We'll
Yeah.
talk
Okay.
offline.
So
Yeah.
Mike has given me the application package.
Okay.
I'm going to review it, and I'll
Yeah.
speak with him. And would we potentially set a public hearing, or would we do that?
We could set a public hearing, the next meeting, I would probably say November, your second meeting in November.
Okay. Good.
So it'll give us enough time to do all the referrals, because this will have to be referred to CROG, adjoining towns, and that's it.
Anything else you want to share with us, Mr. Glidden?
We have a potential application coming on West Mountain Road for a conventional subdivision. So I've met with an applicant on that. I anticipate probably November you may see an application if it's,
Conventional subdivision.
yeah?
Wow.
It's a lease, no, you'll have two. You have two on West Mountain Road, one down towards this site where the zone change has been filed. It's for a 5-lot re-subdivision, and the other is for a 2-lot re-subdivision. So
Where's that one?
they're both on West Mountain Road.
But are they both near each other?
No,
Oh,
they're on opposite ends.
Ends of them.
One is closer towards Farms Village, the other is closer to Bushy Hill Route 44.
Conventional.
The 5-lot will be a conventional with a public road. At least that was what was shown at a preliminary plan with staff.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any other comments? No?
good discussion tonight.
Very good.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Abstentions? None. Motion carries unanimously.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.